Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Srimad His Divine Grace Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki. Itai Gaura Premanandi. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to the assembled devotees. Oh, glories to Shishiguru and Shigoranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, the Summon Bonum, Chapter 8, Lord Krishna shows the universal form within his mouth. Text number 25. Singriyak nidam sti asijala dvija kantenkyabha. Krida para atikalau swasatau nisedhum. Grija nikartun apijatra natach jananyu. Shekata partur alangmana sonavatas navastam. Singriyak nidam stri asijala dvija katenkya. Krida para atikalao swasatao nishetum. Grihya nikartunapi yatra natach jananyo. Shekata apatur alam manaso nabastam. Sringyak nidam stri asijala dvija katenkebya. Krida parab atikalao swasatao nisetum. Griya nikartunapi yatra natach jananyao. Shekata apatur alam manaso nabastam. Christian. Sringyak nidam stri asijala dvija katenkebhya. Krida parab atikalao swanaso nishedhum. Grihya nikartun apijatra natach jananyo. Shekata apaturalam manaso nabastam. Sringyak nidam stri asijala dvija kata kambikebya. Krida parab atikalao swasatao nisetum. Grihya nikartunapi yatra natach jananyo. Sekata apaturalam manaso nabastam. Sringi, with the cows. Agni, fire. Tamstri, monkeys and dogs. Asi, swords. Jala, water. Dvija, birds. Kantakebhya, and thorns. Krida parao ati kalao. The babies, being too restless, engage in play. Swa satao, their own two songs. Niset dum, just to stop them. Grihyani, household duties. Kartun api, by executing. Yatra, when. Na, not. Tat jananyo, their mothers, Rohini and Yashoda. Sekate, able. Apatu, obtain. Alam, indeed. Manasa, of the mind. Anavashtam, equilibrium. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. When Mother Yashoda and Rohini were unable to protect the babies from calamities threatened by horned cows, by fire, by animals with claws and teeth, such as monkeys, dogs, and cats, and by thorns, swords, and other weapons on the ground. They were always in anxiety, and their household engagements were disturbed. At that time, they were fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as the distress of material affection, for this was aroused within their minds. Purport. All these pastimes of Krishna and the great enjoyment exhibited by the mothers are transcendental. Nothing about them is material. They are described in the Brahma Samhita as Ananda Chimaya Rasa. In the spiritual world, there is anxiety, there is crying, and there's other feelings similar to those of the material world. But because the reality of this feeling is in the transcendental world, which is of which this world is only an imitation, Mother Yashoda and Rohini enjoy them transcendentally. Om Jnana Timirandasya Yananyana Shalakaya Chakshur Ummilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Ramapada Swami Dinamine. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirveshesha Shunyavadi Pashatyade Satanine. Panchakalpa Tarubhyasha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanevyo Vaishnavevyo Namo Namaha. So, we've been reciting every evening and offering lamb to Lord Damodar, and in these prayers the glorification of Lord Krishna's babyhood pastimes are given. Iti drikshva leelavir ananda kunde, that these super excellent pastimes of Lord Krishna babyhood drown the inhabitants of Gokula in pools of ecstasy. Ananda kunde. Swagoshannimayantam akyapayantam. Tadiyashita gyeshur bhakta irjitatvat Puna prematas tam satavriti bande. To the devotees who are attracted only to his majestic aspect as Narayan in Vaikuntha, the Lord herein reveals in his beautiful childhood pastime, I am conquered and overwhelmed by pure loving devotion. And then the devotee prayer, Varandeva mokshan na moksham vadimva nachanya brineham vareshat apiha idam te vapur nata gopala balam sada me manashi abhirastam kinanyai. So this Gopala Balam, this beautiful form of Krishna as a child, the devotee prayers that I simply wish that your childhood pastimes may be ever manifested or enacted, may ever be enacted in my heart. So the devotees say, although you're able to give all kinds of benedictions, I do not pray to you for liberation, moksha, nor eternal life in Vaikuntha, nor any other boon. My prayers that your childhood pastime may constantly appear in my mind. And then the image of the Lord with his beautiful lotus face and encircled with locks of curling hair, and his cheeks, which is of blackish complexion, has been reddened like the bimba fruit due to Mother Yasoda's kisses. What more can I describe than this? Millions of opulence are of no use to me, but may that vision constantly remain in my mind. Idan te mukham bhojan atyanta nilayar britan kuntalay snigda ratasya gopya muhu shumbitam bimba rakta daram me manasya virastam alam lakshalabhay. So they're very endearing, beautiful pastimes, and this chapter goes in detail of some of the very wonderful situations, and specifically in this verse there is a very intriguing fact of the type of experience that the devotees of the Lord have in the spiritual world. The verse translates that both Mother Yasoda and Mother Rohini, they experience the transcendental ecstasy known as distress of material affection, which is is quite mind-boggling. What is the term that is used when you have something that is a contrary? It doesn't. What? Yeah, you can reconcile the two things, but it's a term, I think is, I can't think right now. Yes, but there's a specific term in English, that is used when you have something that they have this contradiction. Paradox could be one, yes. But they're not exactly. Paradox is not exactly. But anyway, you got the idea. It doesn't make sense that you experience ecstasy in distress. It only makes sense for people that are sick in this material world, will be a sick person. There's a medical term for people who gets happiness out of distress, which is masochist, right? And the people that does this type of things, that hurt themselves to actually get some relief or some, they sort of enjoy that, which is pretty sick in the mind. But in this case, it is described how the distress of having such a powerful, mischievous children as Krishna and Balaram, they will actually, I can only imagine, go into the shed with all the animals and basically do all kinds of things outside. And when the people have to work and have to do things, there's tools, there's weapons, there's animals, there's all kinds of things, bushes with thorns. And then there's these children roaming about in these two babies roaming around in this area with full of things that are very dangerous for children. And babies are usually very limited. The mothers, they're doing the household and they keep an eye on their babies, and the babies cannot go too far. Their bodies are very small and their movements are limited by, having a baby body. So they may crawl. How far you can go by crawling around? So the mothers usually keep a good eye on the children, and it usually is in an area that they feel is safe. There is no danger. And they go and do the household thing, and then, the children, you keep looking, oh, it's there. But when you have these hyperactive children, then, and especially the transcendental hyperactive Krishna and Balaram, who their capacity is not limited by the little bodies. And crawling for them is not a problem. It is described by the powerful hands and arms and legs. The previous verses. Powerful hand and legs. They will crawl around. And they will mark the path as they crawling, like, a big snake just, was passing around and leaving the marks like that. And they will go when all these different things are. Cows with horn, and cows are huge. One time in Gitanagari, we were by the cows, and I was, you were petting the cows, and you get a little too comfortable, and you forget these are huge animals. And just a little turn and they can knock you around. So as I'm standing there and then sort of being distracted, this big cow just steps in my feet and just stays there, so huge animal. I mean, I was crushed, my feet was finished, I was thinking it's gonna break my feet, and I was pushing and the thing didn't move, and then finally it moved. And so big cows and animals with claws and teeth such as monkey, dogs and cats, thorns, and then other weapons and swords and knives and things for tilting the ground. You can imagine all, these are Vaishyas and they use instruments. And you don't know how to use the instruments, and children are usually very playful. So they can grab, a knife, they can grab one of these instruments, and then hurt themselves. I remember I have a scar here, because maybe I was like 9 years old, 10 years old. And I will go where my grandfather was cutting with the machete plants of corn. He was, taking the corn down. And so I grabbed a machete and, I started to help. But then when I got tired with my right hand, I'm right-handed, I grab it with my left hand, which I don't have that much control. So I swing at a plant, and then it went through and hit my arm, right here in the wrist, and then a big gash opened. So, it's dangerous, this thing, especially for children. My grandfather was not paying attention and was a 10-year-old doing with a machete, you know. But in general, the farm children, they had no problem. They were very skillful with the things. They learned these things. You know, I was a city child. So these things are dangerous. So when you have these super active, powerful babies that, you know, they were not limited by the little body, they will go out and Krishna will grab the tails of the calf, you know, and the calf are also, you know, they're small in comparison to the cows, but they're a good size. They're like the size of a huge dog, you know, like one of those Great Danes type of dogs. And they can move around and they can kick. And they grab at the tails and they get scared and they start to run with Krishna and Balaram holding, having the time of their life, you know, just having a great time, just being dragged by the cows. Now, you can imagine the mothers, you know, having this distress of material affection. They were constantly checking that Krishna was okay. They want to protect Krishna, you know, parental affection. And they constantly, where is, you know, and then they look, oh my God, he's in the shed. Oh, no. So then they see Krishna is happy and smiling, and then they get, you know, happy. It is said that they will see the fun that Krishna was having by being dragged by the calf, and they will drown in this ecstasy. But those moments of fear that Krishna may be in danger, for them, that is the transcendental ecstasy known as distress of material affection. It's puzzling that they use the word material affection, distress of material affection. So I'm not sure how to say that, and I don't want to speculate, try to explain it. But in one sense, you know, is something that we can relate because we all experience this distress of material affection. Every one of us have a time in which we're concerned about someone that is close, that we're attached to. That's someone that we have affection for, and then something happened to that person, or even sometimes another type of living entity, a pet or something like that, and you become very attached. So we all experience that type of distress when something happens. A dear family member dies and you experience the distress of material affection. But there's no ecstasy in there, it's just distress. So the comparison is there. Prabhupada explains all these emotions exist. In the spiritual world, there is anxiety, there is crying, and there are other feelings similar to those of the material world. So it's a simile, the distress of material affection. So it's just highlighting at the emotion of distress due to the affection that one has for another, you know, living entity that is close to us. The Narada Muni described a little bit of what is this ecstasy. and that one have that the body goes through to the particular emotions, you know. In the Nectar of Devotion, it is explained that there are all these different emotions that are there, that in the material world we experience. All these emotions are there in the spiritual world, in the spiritual existence, and all these emotions becomes impetus for the arising of love, prema, and it manifests in different ecstatic symptoms in the body of the devotee. So Narada Muni telling Vyasadeva about his personal experience. He said, "Oh Vyasadeva, at that time, being exceedingly overpowered by feelings of happiness, every part of my body became separately enlivened. Being absorbed in an ocean of ecstasy, I could not see both myself and the Lord." So you can imagine just being all of a sudden aware of every single part of your body, and they all separately enlivened. Prabhupada explains in the purport, spiritual feelings of happiness and intense ecstasy have no mundane comparison. So it's not something that we can understand by our own experience. Therefore, it is very difficult to give expression to such feelings. We can just have a glimpse of such ecstasy in the words of Sri Narada Muni. Each and every part of the body or senses has its particular function. After seeing the Lord, all the senses became fully awakened to render service unto the Lord, because in the liberated state, the senses are fully efficient in serving the Lord. As such, in that transcendental ecstasy, it so happened that the senses became separately enlivened to serve the Lord. This being so, Narada Muni lost himself in seeing both himself and the Lord simultaneously. So, the experience of being a fully awakened spirit soul is beyond our comprehension. To have each senses, each part of the body separately, just being experiencing the particular, to have the particular experience of serving the Lord in a manner that the particular sense is able to. A little bit of what the description of what Maharaj Ambarish will do with all the parts of his body. So he will experience with his eyes, he will be completely absorbed. And this is all simultaneous. All these senses becoming aroused by the service of the Lord and spiritually awakened. So with the eyes, he will look at the beautiful form of the Lord. With his nose, he will smell the fragrance of the lotus, of the tulsi flowers that are by the lotus feet of the Lord, and so on. With his arms, he will clean, and with his legs, he will walk towards the Lord. So, etc., etc. So all these things simultaneously being fully spiritually awakened and enlivened. I'm going to read from the Nectar of Devotion. Chapter 28 of the Nectar of Devotion describes existential ecstatic love for Krishna. These are this is some of the ecstatic symptoms. It's a chapter that describes different ecstatic symptoms that the devotee experience. So, existential ecstatic love for Krishna. When a devotee is always intensely affected by love for Krishna, in a direct relationship with him, or even a little apart from him, his status is called existential ecstatic love. The symptoms originating for such existential ecstatic love are divided into three headings, namely moist, burned, and dried up. Srila Rupa Goswami is very poetic, and his imagery is always like that. Moist existential ecstatic love aroused in connection with Krishna is divided into two, direct and indirect. Radharani was waving a garland of kunda flowers, and upon hearing the vibration of Krishna's flute, she immediately stopped her work. This is an example of direct, moistened, existential, ecstatic love. Indirect, moistened, existential, ecstatic love is described in the following statement. Krishna, who is also called Purushottam, is to the eyes of Mother Yasoda just like the clouds is to the eyes of the Chataki bird. When Krishna has been brought to Mathura, Mother Yasoda, being very anxious and angry, began to rebuke the king of Mathura. So, Krishna is to the eyes of Mother Yasoda just like the clouds is to the eyes of the Chataki bear. The Chataki bear is the bird that drinks water, right? It is called also the Chakora bear. Is this the same? You know, any of you? Chataki bird is the one that drinks the water from the clouds. Huh? When rain comes, so he looks at the clouds as their source of sustenance. You know, it goes to the clouds. So Mother Yasoda is like that. Burnt existential ecstatic love is divided into three, and one example is as follows. One day, Mother Yasoda was dreaming that the gigantic demon Putana was lying on the courtyard of her house, and she immediately became anxious to seek out Krishna. So that's a burnt ecstatic symptom. She's anxious. So she experienced this anxiety, this ecstasy of anxiety. So you get a connection that how this ecstasy immediately brings Krishna into the mind, and it becomes a burned existential ecstatic symptom. When there are manifestations of ecstatic symptoms in the body of a non-devotee, these are called dried up symptoms of ecstasy, ecstatic love. The non-devotees are actually materialistic, but in contact with some pure devotee, they sometimes may manifest some symptoms of ecstasy. Devotional scholars call these dry up symptoms. There are 8 symptoms of existential ecstatic love: becoming stunned, perspiring, standing of the hairs on the body, faltering of the voice, trembling of the body, changing bodily colors, shedding tears, and devastation. The scientific explanation of these 8 symptoms is given by Rupa Goswami as follows. When the vital forms of life is in contact with the earth, it is called stunning. When the same force comes into contact with water, there is shedding of tears. When the same force comes into contact with fire, there is perspiration. When the force comes into contact with the sky, there is complete devastation. And when that force comes into contact with the air, there is trembling, failing of the voice, and a standing of hairs on the body. So these elements, these 5 elements, are elements that are present in our bodies. So we see that even in our stage of material condition, sometimes we experience these things. We experience being stoned, perspiring. Sometimes our hair stands when something like happens that, people said that I'm getting goosebumps, like that type of feeling. The faltering of the voice, trembling of the body, changing of bodily colors. Someone becomes, shy, then the face becomes reddish, or someone becomes scared, the face becomes pale. So when all these changings of colors happens, and the shedding of tears, devastation. So all these things is when the particular when there is this connection with the different elements in the body, it creates this particular reaction. So similarly, it happens with the devotees. These symptoms are sometimes manifested internally and sometimes externally. The pure devotee always feels such symptomatic expressions within himself, but being afraid of outsiders, he does not generally manifest them externally. So very rarely you see that. Prabhupada was such a great example of that. Srila Rupa Goswami then explains each one of these 8. Should I read? What time it is? 8:18. We have some time. Becoming a stone. So this is the ecstatic symptom that is when the emotion or the vital force becomes in contact with earth, the earth element. The symptom of becoming a stone is caused by ecstatic tribulation, fearfulness, astonishment, lamentation, and anger. These symptoms exhibit by a stoppage of talking, a stoppage of movement, a feeling of voidness, an extreme feeling of separation, So here are some examples of devotees who experience this tone. When Uddhava was describing Krishna's pastime to Vidura, he said, quote, "One day the gopis became stoned when Krishna, in the dress of a gardening maid, entered the greenhouse and enlivened them with joking and laughter. Then when Krishna left the greenhouse, the gopis were seeing Krishna so ecstatically that it was as though both their minds and their eyes were following him." End of quote. These symptoms signify that although the gopis' business was not finished, they have become stoned with ecstatic love. Another example of being stoned took place when Krishna was surrounded by various wrestlers in the sacrificial arena of Kamsa. His mother, Devaki, then became stoned, and her eyes dried up when she saw Krishna among the wrestlers. There is also an example of the astonishment of Lord Brahma. It is explained in the 10th canto, 13th chapter, 51st verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, that when Brahma understood that this cowherd boy was the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, he became stoned. All of his sensual activities began to stop upon seeing all the cowherd boys again, along with Krishna. Lord Brahma was so stunned that he appeared to be a golden statue with 4 heads. Also, when the residents of Braja found that Krishna has lifted Govardhan hill with his left hand, they became stunned. You know, you get paralyzed by something that is so awesome, that, you know, or something that is like, that is astonishing, that becomes astonishing. Astonishment caused by lamentation is exemplified when Krishna was entering the belly of Bakasura demon, and the demigods from the higher planes became stunned with lamentation. And similar example of becoming stunned was visible in Arjuna when he saw that Ashwatthama was attempting to release his Brahmastra at Krishna. Perspiration. So this one is when the vital force comes in contact with the water element. An example of perspiring because of jubilation is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. One gopi addressed Radharani Tosli. Quote, "My dear Radharani, you are rebuking the sunshine unnecessarily, but I can understand that you are perspiring only because of your becoming too lusty at seeing Krishna." End of quote. Srimati Radharani was perspiring, so she was rebuking the sunshine that is making her by the heat perspire. But the other gopi says, no, actually you're perspiring because your love for Krishna, your desire for Krishna. Perspiration caused by fearfulness was exhibited by Raktak. Raktak? One of the servants of Krishna. One day Krishna dressed himself just like Abhimanyu, the husband of Radharani. Abhimanyu did not like Radharani's association with Krishna, and therefore when Raktak saw Krishna in the dress of Abhimanyu and thus mistook his identity, he began to strongly rebuke him. As soon as Raktak finally understood that it was Krishna in the dress of Abhimanyu, he began perspiring. This perspiration was caused by fearfulness. So, poor Raktak, when he realized that, oh, it's actually Krishna, he became perspiring out of fearfulness. Perspiration due to anger is exhibited by Garuda, the eagle who is the carrier of Vishnu. Once the heavenly king Indra was sending torrents of rain over Vrindavan. Garuda was observing the incident from above the clouds, and because of his anger, he began perspiring. And then comes the standing of hairs on the body. So this one is when which is this one, when the body becomes in touch with the sky. No. Okay. When the force comes into contact with air. So the standing of the hairs of the body. The standing up of hair on the body was manifested when Mother Yasoda found within Krishna's mouth all the universal planetary system. She has asked Krishna to open his mouth wide just to see whether he has eaten dirt. But when Krishna opened his mouth, she saw not only the entire earth, but also many other planets within his mouth. This caused a standing up of the hair on her body. The standing up of hairs on the body resulting from jubilation is described in the 10th canto, 30th chapter, 9th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam in connection with the gopis engaged in the rasa dance. During the rasa dance, Krishna disappeared all of a sudden with Radharani, and the gopis began to search him out. At that time, they addressed the earth and began to say, quote, "My dear earthly planet, how many austerities and penances you must have undergone to have the lotus feet of Krishna always touching your surface. I think that you must be very jubilant because the trees and plants, which are just like hairs on your body, are standing up gloriously. May we ask, when did you first get these symptoms? Are you enjoying this jubilation since you were touched by the incarnation of Vamana and since you were delivered by the incarnation Varaha?" End of quote. Krishna will sometimes perform mock fighting along with the cowherd boys. When Krishna blew his horn in this mock fighting, Sridama, who was on the opposite side, felt his bodily hairs stand up. Similarly, Arjuna saw Krishna in his gigantic universal form. There was a standing of the hairs on his body. In the faltering of the voice, this also happens when he gets in contact with air. When Krishna was going to Mathura on the chariot driven by Akrura, Yasoda and all the gopis came to try to forbid him to pass and block his way. At that time, Radharani was so perturbed that in a faltering voice, she requested Mother Yasoda to please stop Akrura. Faltering of the voice resulting from wonder was exhibited by Brahma. It is said in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 13th chapter, 59th verse, that after bowing down before Lord Krishna, when Brahma began to rise, he prayed to the Lord in a faltering voice. In the 10th canto, 29th chapter, 27th verse, another example of faltering of the voice was exhibited by the gopis when they came to Krishna desiring to dance with him. Krishna asked them to go back to their husbands and homes. The gopis apparently became very angry and began to talk to Krishna with faltering voices. In the 10th canto, 39th chapter, 48th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, a faltering voice due to jubilation was exhibited by Akrura when he was shown all the Vaikuntha planets resting within the river Jamuna. When Akrura understood that Krishna was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he bowed his head to Krishna's lotus feet, and with folded hands he began to pray in a faltering voice. There are also examples of faltering voice caused by fearfulness. One of Krishna's friends praised him thusly. Quote, "My dear friend, your flute was given to your servant Patri, and when I asked him to return it, he began speaking in a faltering voice, and his complexion became yellow." Now, trembling. I think trembling is also when it comes in contact with air. When Krishna, it's getting late. When Krishna was trying, there's one, two, it's a little more, maybe like another 5 minutes. When Krishna was trying to capture the demon Shanka, Radharani began trembling out of fearfulness. Similar trembling of the body was exhibited in Sahadev, the younger brother of Nakula, when Shishupal was vehemently blaspheming the Lord, Sahadev began to tremble out of anger. Trembling of the body was also exhibited by Radharani out of tribulation. Radharani trembled as she told one of the gopis, quote, "Don't joke with this disappointing boy. Please ask him not to approach me, because he's always caused all grief for us." End of quote. Changing of bodily color. Sometimes, due to great aggrievement caused by the dealings of Krishna, the body changes colors. The gopis therefore address the Lord thusly, quote, "My dear Krishna, due to separation from you, all the denizens of Vrindavan have changed their color. And because of this change of color, even the great sage Narada was thinking of Vrindavan as a white island in the ocean of milk." End of quote. When Krishna and Balaram were present in the arena of Kamsa, Kamsa's body changed color. Similar, Indra's face changed color when he saw that Krishna was protecting all the denizens of Braj by lifting Govardhan hill. If the color changes takes place due to excessive jubilation, the hue turns red. But such change of color is so rare, Srila Rupa Goswami does not further discuss this point. Tears. Out of jubilation, anger, or separation, there may be the pouring down of tears from the eyes. This is when the life force come in contact with water. When such tears are very cold, they are due to jubilation. And when they are due to anger, the tears become hot. In all cases, there is a severe movement of the eyes, and the eyes generally become reddish. There is also an itching sensation which causes the sufferer to rub his eyes. When the lotus eye of Rukmini, the first queen of Krishna in Dwarka, was shedding tears of ecstasy, ecstatic jubilation, she did not like the tears. There is a passage in the Harivansa where Satyabhama begins to shed tears because of her great affection for Krishna. An example of shedding tears because of anger was exhibited by Bhima when he saw that Shishupal was insulting Krishna in the Rajasuya arena of sacrifice. Bhima wanted to kill Shishupal immediately, but because Krishna did not order him to do so, he became morose with anger. It is described that there were hot tears covering his eyes, as a thin cloud sometimes covers the evening moon. In the evening, when the moon is slightly covered by a thin cloud, it looks very nice. And when Bhima was shedding tears on account of his anger, he also looked very nice. In the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 68, verse 23, there is a nice example of Rukmini's shedding tears of lamentation. When Krishna and Rukmini were talking, Rukmini became frightened of separation from Krishna, and therefore she began scratching the earth with her red lotus nails. Because she was shedding tears, the black ointment from her eyes was dripping along with the tears onto her breasts, which were covered with the kumkum powder. Rukmini was so aggrieved that her voice was choked up. And then this is the last one, devastation. And this is when the life force comes into contact with space. There's total devastation, you say. When a person is confused by simultaneous happiness and tribulation and does not know what to do, this state of confusion is called pralaya, or devastation. In this condition of pralaya, one sometimes falls down onto the ground, and all the symptoms of ecstatic love become manifest. When the gopis were searching after Krishna, and all of a sudden he came out from the bushes and creepers, all of them became stunned and almost senseless. In this state, the gopis appear very beautiful. This is an example of pralaya, devastation in happiness. There are also instances of pralaya in distress. One such example is described in the 10th canto, 39th chapter, 14th verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, where Sukadev Goswami tells King Parikshit, quote, "My dear king, when the gopis were missing Krishna, they were so much absorbed in meditation upon him that all their senses stopped functioning, and they lost all bodily sense. It was as though they had become liberated from all material conditions." End of quote. Out of many ecstatic symptoms of the body, the symptom being stunned is especially significant. According to the degree of being stunned, the vital force within the body becomes agitated, and due to such a state, the other ecstatic loving symptoms sometimes become altered. These transcendental ecstatic symptoms gradually develop, and in the course of such development, they are sometimes smoky, sometimes called blazing, and sometimes called shining. These three degrees are experienced for many, many years and extend to different parts of the body. Unlike the shedding of tears and faltering of the voice, the condition of being stunned is spread all over the body. The shedding of tears and faltering of the voice are simply localized symptoms. So this stun, you feel it all over your body. And I wonder if it will explain the smoky, the blazing, and the shining, different type of being stunned. Shedding of tears, however, sometimes makes the eyes become swollen and whitish. And sometimes the lenses of the eyes become differently focused. Faltering of the voice may sometimes cause choking in the throat and extreme anxiety. As the different symptoms of these ecstatic manifestations are localized, they are accompanied by different local reactions. Example, when the throat is choked up because of a faltering voice, there may be a sound like grr. Such sound choke up the voice, and with extreme mental anxiety, they manifest in different ways. All these symptoms are listed under the dried up existential condition known as smoky, and they're exhibited in different ways. Okay. So remember that the dried up existential condition happens to people that are they're not pure devotees, and even they're described as non-devotees, but due to the association with a pure devotee who experiences ecstatic symptoms, then they also have these symptoms manifested, but they call dried up existential condition of ecstasy, and this one is known as the smoky one. Sometimes while participating in ceremonies celebrating Krishna's pastimes or in the society of devotees, there is dancing ecstasy. Such sentiments are called blazing. So blazing, like a blazing fire. So Janmashtami, midnight Artik, thousands of devotees filling this room, everybody screaming. That's a blazing experience of ecstasy that, the devotees have. None of the above symptoms can be manifest without the basic principle of a strong attachment for Krishna. In the smoky condition, such ecstatic expressions, the symptoms, could otherwise be hidden. This type of symptom was experienced by priest Gargamuni, who was performing some ritualistic ceremony in the house of Nanda Maharaj. When he heard about Krishna's killing of the Agasura demon, there were some tears visible in his eyes. His throat was trembling, and perspiration covered his whole body. In this way, priest Gargamuni's beautiful face assumed a nice condition. When several such ecstatic symptoms are visible, the condition is called blazing. For example, some of Krishna's friends told him, quote, "My dear friend, as soon as I heard the sound of your flute from within the forest, my hands became almost motionless and my eyes became full of tears. So much so, in fact, that I could not recognize your peacock feather. My thighs became almost completely stunned, so that I could not move even an inch. Therefore, my dear friend, I must acknowledge the wonderful vibration of your transcendental flute." End of quote. Wait, I'm going to stop here. There's more nectar, but you can read it on your own. Nectar of devotion is very beautiful. And it's very deep, so it's nice to get into study the nectar of devotion. I'm telling that to myself too. Just one question or short comments, if you're going to do it, because it's already 8:43.
That is, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is stated, I remember that verse a little bit, Krishna Nama Mahamantra, Yaita Swabhav, Jai Jape Tar Upujai Bhav, Hasi Kandi Gai Nachi Gai, Hasi Kandi Nachi Gai, that last line I don't remember. So that means Yaita Swabhav something. So Krishna name is so potent, and so means what is called so potent and something that those who just try to chant it, then all ecstasy evolved, comes out one after another. Like sometimes he laughs, hasi, sometimes kande, sometimes cry, sometimes like you told, shed tears, then hasi kandi nache something, he dance like a madman, he doesn't care about the public, hasi kandi nachi guy, sings, like I remember when Maharaj was here, you remember that Hanuman Prastha, Maharaj was here, that Ekta Krishna's Guru, during Mangalarti time you will see, he will not stand one place. He will just move here and there and then jump like anything like, very nice. And the main thing is how we can get this bhava. There is a very nice song, Nitai Pada Kamala, that song. In that song it is written very nice line, Rati Janmina Kena Naitar. Nitai means why this Rati, this bhav is not coming? Because of our offenses. Main thing is offenses. when we commit offense, then everything is finished. That's, so we have to be very careful.
Yeah, nice. Thank you so much. We can pray like Lord Chaitanya tell us, not what is it? Najanam galarashu dharaja badanam katkadaru deagira pulakair nichitamba pukadat tamanama grahane gurishati. Oh my Lord, when my eyes were full of tears, and when my voice shook up, and when would the hairs of my body stand at the end of the recitation of your names? So it is there, just simply by chanting, but when would that time be? You know, we can be patient. Trinara Pishu Nichena.
That is Vipralamba Bhava, that is called Vipralamba Bhava. See, when in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Mahaprabhu, he, Govinda was, his personal servant, he locked Mahaprabhu inside, Mahaprabhu was sleeping inside the room, and because he doesn't know when Mahaprabhu, automatically he didn't find that how, he locked outside, then Mahaprabhu, how the door was opened, something, then Mahaprabhu went outside, and he felt his legs were, all joints were separated by like 6 inches. And he was falling under a cow shed, he was doing like a tortoise, his body was like a tortoise. He was rubbing his face on the wall and he's crying.
Jai. Thank you very much. Garantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai.